Hello, everyone. The topic of this project is cyberbullying in different social media. Our project divided into 5 parts and mainly focus on part 4, the major findings and analysis. Let's get started. With the development of the internet, the increase of freedom of speech and the development of various social media, people's freedom of speech on the internet has given rise to a negative phenomenon, cyberbullying, a behavior transformed from bullying in reality, which is mainly carried out in the comment areas of social media, bullet chats, and private message. Cyberbullying can be verbal attacks, slander, insults, human flesh, or disclosure of privacy, and the intensity of words exceeds the scope of general comments and moral boundary. So this group project will be based on the analysis of a recent incident in which a girl committed suicide and jumped from bullying after being subjected to cyberbullying on Weibo and Bilibili website. We will focus on 4 areas where the differences between 2 platforms in order to explore how these differences affect the phenomenon of cyberbullying in this case. The differences include the differences of media for interaction with audience, the differences in the real name system and the normative system, the differences of user group between 2 platforms, the differences of mechanism of preventing cyberbullying.
As familiarized with the victim, she is doing some born in Hong Kong, was raised by her grandmothers, and both parents doing business in the mainland, and her younger brother is also in the mainland as well. It can be seen that is usually alone. Her nickname was Ina, and the main cause of her suicide was cyber violence from mainland netizens. Since she lived in a house in the Chun Shui Wai and employed a domestic servant to look after her daily life, that is the field of tragedy. The netizens found out that her family conditions were superior. They were even more jealous of wealth and start to mock Yana. They cursed Yana for dying early in the name of hating the witch. Besides, she was a bot user as well. She once named her name in the game, meaning commit suicide if you cannot hit the front row. Then she found that the contributor had abused her for a long time. After discovery, she communicated with the actual contributor and hoped to delete this insult. The online abusers agreed to verbally, but then continued to abuse. After she discovered their abusive behavior for the second time, they anonymously abuse and instigate the suicide in the group. The intensifications of cyber violence lead to the tragedy. The moment of tragedy, unfortunately, she didn't get into the top 10. She committed to suicide. The netizens kept reminding her whether it was the time to fulfill her promise. In fact, she decided to suicide. Therefore, on July 12 and 6, 2022, she turned on the live broadcast and stood on the rooftop and say goodbye to everyone. The platform should indeed be responsible, but there are restrictions on the Weibo because the occurrence of the cyber violence is random, accidental, and there's no fixed rule. Sometimes it's just because of word and opinion or just expressions. The platform is hard to find and stop in time. The supervision of online community is weak, and the real name registrations fail to effectively reduce the irresponsible and harmful information because the front this speech can continue to use anonymity. This means that for the first time, it failed to control cyber violence in terms of insult and privacy abuse, and the platform doesn't set a functions for forbidding comments, which often leads to the vicious circle. Even they had a rival, the victim will be besieged by others. This also happened in the Bilibili. Since the victim can report up to 3 comments, and there's nothing they can do about the rest. Although the function of extortion, but the blacklist has an upper limit, it is impossible to ban all private message from the strangers. And the platform has set up a community regulations, but the regulation become a double standard because even if you report abuse that is obviously violates the community regulations, but the official will pretend to be blind without dealing with it.
Okay, so here I would talk about the difference in the manifestation and the level of severe to the victim in this different two platform. So when we talk about Weibo, this is a text-based social media that implemented by video. For this case, the account that play as an anonymous platform to post comments from other users who submit their comments to the account holder is a text-based platform. They will post numerous comments continuously. So as here you can see, this is one example that the anonymous post was sent by the bot here. His name is his, and this is the victim's response. And when we talk about text harassment, it has the property of being fast, straightforward, and it usually will have small volume. For this case, it's mainly small volume text that have numerous senders. They can be created in a very short time that count as seconds, and however, the volume can sometimes be significant, like those complaint and accessory texts. Like here is quite long. Also, the text violence does not need any logic behind it to support the assault. When the abuser wants to commit verbal violence, which has no limit on the location, on the time, and does not need any substantive causality and relationship of interest, perpetrators can type out the assaulting message to the victim with direct personal attacks. Furthermore, using insulting and discriminatory language and words of offensive, abuse, denigration, contempt, reckless comments, and ridicule, like a beyond it, every word stick to the heart, although there's no real knife and no actual physical harm to the human body. It still makes people suffer from spiritual and psychological violations and injuries. And for the Bilibili, you can see this is a video-based assault. In this case, the victim used to upload videos to this video platform. After her death, some abusers still use her video to do derivative work of her video to keep assaulting the victim, just like this. But sadly, but in this case, all the assaulting video has been deleted by the platform, so we can't find the real one. So we'll use another example to explain it. And also, using video as a format to implement cyberbullying usually requires higher effort to create a video. It includes videos of the assaulting process, audios like curse word or swearing language. It usually needs logic to support to create a video. Moreover, since it will be published on the public internet, it may spread virally, and the assaulter may aim to let the situation escalate to make the victim feel more embraced. It may not attack the victim directly since the victim may not choose to watch the video, but other netizens may get known of this event, and some viewers who do not know the whole thing exactly, but may get emotionally driven by this video, and may also join them and then conduct bullying behavior. And this is the end of my part.
Okay, so for this part, I will talk about the difference in anonymity and the real name system and how to reduce the online violence to happen. In this case, we can see that some netizens anonymously contributed or discussed the case on the platform that carried out online violence against the victim. I think the anonymity system on the internet will lead to the spreading of cyberbullying to some extent. With the rapid development of social networks, the speed of network transmission is beyond imagination. The function of posting comments anonymously provides a window for people looking behind the screen to vent freely, which has led to cases of depression and even suicide caused by cyberbullying in this case. Behind this cyber violence incidents reflect the weakening of self-awareness, a lack of independent discrimination, and self-responsibility of some netizens. So at the same time, the anonymity system also makes it difficult for the official institution to identify the identity and investigate the responsibility through screenshots after the case. And in this slide, you can see some platforms that support netizens to post the comments anonymously. Okay, so because of the frequent incidents of cyberbullying, that many netizens began to call for the implementation of the online real name system. But in fact, the system has already been implemented. Both Bilibili and Weibo accounts requires a backstage real name registration, and it is not hard to find out the real identity. Moreover, the online real name system cannot significantly reduce cyber violence, but it is more likely to lead to the disclosure of individual real information, making violence more accurate. In addition, the reason why cyber violence is carried out is largely due to the symmetry of internet users' access to information, or even the one-sided cognition caused by the public opinion guidance of some users of bad media, which leads to the emergence of cyber violence. Cyber violence is not from anonymity, but mainly from the internet environment where personal information is easily exposed, and the lack of privacy protection awareness of the netizens in this environment. So in order to curb online violence, the joint efforts of laws and platforms are needed. So I think the legal agencies need to have an independent legislation on cyber violence and improve the severity of punishment so that the internet users learn to think twice before acting. And the platform should also strengthen the supervision and review of bad speech. So only in this way, I think it can let the network violence have a more systematic inhibition effect. So yeah, that's all.
Next, I'm going to talk about the influence and characteristics of the different platforms on teenagers. As the platform developed at the earliest stage of Chinese internet, Weibo accounts for majority of Chinese internet users, which makes it a platform with group of various preferences. For teenagers who want to understand subcultures and join subcultures, Weibo is undoubtedly their first choice. And Bilibili is the same. When Japanese ACG culture swept the world, Bilibili was the first platform for relevant promotion in China. Over the years, most anime lovers in China have gathered on the platform to release relevant creations. Nowadays, subculture spreads like a virus on the internet. Any game, fashion, movie, music, animation, and other trendy things can form its own subculture. Since many subcultures are very minority, various subculture groups are formed as a result. These teenagers who like subculture are usually very unconventional, and they use words incomprehensive to outsiders. And they are different from ordinary people in terms of dress and other aspects. It can be seen that for teenagers between the age of 15 and 20, they are quite interested in various subcultures. And one of the things they like to do is to form their own groups. And for such groups, the opportunity to form cyberbullying is very simple. That is, as long as there are something they don't like, they will fight against it. And the new members of the groups may be bullied because they are not familiar with their memes or their behaviors do not conform their preferences. In this suicide case, they can bully her just because of a game ID. And through the special method of Weibo platform named bot account, it was easy for them to achieve their goals. And the operators behind these Weibo accounts did not review the submissions, which combined with all these violent comments. Many young people who blindly pursue the trend and quite immature mentally. These teenagers are unaware for their violent comments, and they do not think they need to take responsibility for their own words. and carry out indiscriminate attacks or even cyberbullying on individual or groups other than their own group. Most of them don't give any thoughts to their violent comments on the internet and don't even consider them as cyberbullying. For someone with a long history of emotional illness like this girl, any attack can be in reversible consequences. And in this case, it resulted in a suicide.
As for the promotion of online violence incidents by platforms themselves, there are following 2 points. First, the platform does not properly control some violence and vulgar words. They cannot timely delete some nasty comments, resulting in endless verbal insults to the victims. In a girl's suicide, whether in her Bilibili video or in the comments on Weibo, we can see lots of abusive comments. At the same time, this instance had an online account on Weibo, which would accept contributions from others and then it would publish the comments. Many abusers would anonymously install the victims through these microblog accounts. However, this account didn't screen the rationalities of some bad remarks and then choose whether to publish them. As you can see the picture, the blogger refused to delete his speech. Also, Weibo and Bilibili platform didn't properly review and let these violent remarks spread. And even Bilibili broadcast the suicide process publicly, which caused great harm to the victim's hearts. Secondly, the circulation of information between platforms also led to the intensification of psycho-violence due to the interoperabilities of information. It's easy for us to find the victim's accounts of other platforms, even some of the previously bad history. In this case, because the girl had been bullied before, some of abusers attacked the girl and repeatedly teased her about the suicide. So you can see this picture. Before she commits suicide, she once says, "How can you live with your conscience by hanging up the pain I suffered several years ago?" We can see that the abuser's behavior has seriously harmed to her mental health, resulting in the victims often self-harming. What's more, we can see that the girl's accounts on multiple platforms were all attacked. No matter the comments on Weibo or Bilibili accounts, they were all bullying her and encouraging her to commit suicide, which eventually led to the tragedy. All in all, I think the regulation of both platforms is not in place, especially Weibo. Therefore, we suggest that these platforms should strengthen the control of information and delete some bad information in time.
Okay, to sum up, we can find the differences between Weibo and Bilibili. Firstly, because Weibo is mainly text and posing. Posing and commenting does not require strict vetting, whereas Bilibili is mainly video and uploading video requires more stringent vetting. Secondly, comparing the real name system and anonymity system of the 2 websites, Weibo implemented real name system since 2012 and requires real names for posting, etc. But users can have found ways to get around this, while Bilibili also requires real names for video posting, but not for the bullet chats and comments. In addition, since the establishment of Weibo and Bilibili, the user groups of the 2 websites have been different, with Weibo having a more complex user base and Bilibili being more simple and focused on the enemy subculture. And because of the complex composition of the users, there are some poor value user groups on Weibo. Combining these 3 factors, the cost of testing and bullying is much lower on Weibo than on Bilibili video websites. And because of the imperfect real name system on Weibo and the complexity of the people who use it, the abuse and bullying that victims receive comes mainly from Weibo, although it is available on both websites. In addition, due to the flow of information on the internet, the victims' Bilibili website accounts could be found by other people on Weibo for verbal abuse. In summary, we can conclude that from this instance that cyberbullying is caused by text-based anonymous comment combining with the failure of platform control system and the poor values of the user community. Thank you for your listening.